The SR-71 today remains this mysterious and enticing aircraft. It's menacing, it looks so sleek, but really this is completely a form dictated by the function of the aircraft. We had a need to know what was going on in other countries, and the way that we were going to do that was having a photographic aircraft that could fly very high and very fast, and much faster than the U-2 which preceded it. The SR-71 was that answer for the U.S. Air Force and for the United States. The SR-71 was a tremendous leap forward in technology in many different ways. Fighters at the time could go about Mach 2, this could go Mach 3. It could fly incredibly high. Now there were aircraft that could reach the height of the SR-71, but only in a zoom climb and only temporarily, whereas the SR-71 could fly at level attitude at 80,000 feet or higher. There was no other aircraft at the time that could do that. It was a magnificent platform. It was untouchable, and yet it had not only photographic cameras, it also had systems that performed electronic intelligence as well, and it had a side-looking airborne radar, which was another sensor which was very effective. Speed in the 1960s was what stealth is today. Speed was survivability. In fact, the best way for an SR-71 to deal with a surface air missile shot at it was just simply to speed up. There are some great ways to realize and understand just how fast the SR-71 was. An SR-71 flew from Los Angeles to DC in just a little over an hour. Now imagine, in that amount of time, one would drive to the airport and maybe get your bags checked in, and this airplane flew from coast to coast in a little over an hour. Originally, when the SR-71 was developed, there was the possibility that it could be used over China or even over the Soviet Union. It wasn't used in that way, largely due to diplomatic efforts, but it was used in the dangerous skies over North Vietnam during the Southeast Asia War, and it was also used over North Korea during the Pueblo crisis in 1968. And it was used in other places around the world. The Air Force operated the SR-71, an aircraft that had a capability that no other country in the world had. And the SR-71 could go get photographs and intelligence information that was desperately needed, but that no other aircraft and no other Air Force could get.
My name is George Lester. I am a retired Master Sergeant in the 9th Air Refueling Squadron, and I was the in-flight refueling specialist for the SR-71. I did it for 15 years, and these guys that are out here today, the maintainers, I know some of them from the old days, and we got together and decided we would try to keep the lady clean, which is what we call the SR-71 in the business, is the lady. And so we've been trying to keep it looking nice for the people that come and look at it.
Tech Sergeant William Cronin. I'm a aircraft structural maintenance craftsman. So the SR-71 crew chiefs will come out here around every 4 months, and we assist with that. What we're doing now is we are teaming up with them.
Well, I am happy to see that we've got some military people out here. We all coordinate with each other, and they're here today.
We have 3 different static displays throughout this base, showing the heritage of the base and where we've come from and where we're at now. And we're just out here just beautifying them, making sure they look good for everybody to come out here and see.
The SR-71 is a famed aircraft that could go 3 times the speed of sound and was used for reconnaissance during the Cold War. What's lesser known, however, is the amazing engine that powered and enabled it, the J-58 engine. One of the big problems with the J58 engine was that this engine had to be able to operate at a wide range of conditions, from takeoff and landing of the SR-71 all the way up to Mach 3 plus speeds. A big challenge with the J58 was dealing with heat. At the turbine wheel, the temperature was about 2,000 degrees, so high temperature metal alloys were very important. Also, in controlling the engine, the J58 used a hydraulic system rather than an electrical system to deal with this heat problem. Also, the J58 engine was used in continuous afterburner, which is very unusual for an aircraft because of the heat issue. And the way that the J58 design dealt with that were with these bypass tubes. There are 6 of these, 3 on each side, and air from the front part of the engine, partway through the compressor, was ducted back to the afterburner, and this air was also used to cool the afterburner. Another important feature of the J58 engine, and really the SR-71's propulsion system in general, was the way that the inlet was shaped. And in fact, at the high speeds that the SR-71 could fly past Mach 3, about half the thrust of the SR-71 actually came from the shock wave that was captured inside the inlet of the SR-71.
Retired Lieutenant Colonel Ed Yielding is the Air Force pilot who holds the coast-to-coast speed record, making the transcontinental flight in just 67 minutes in an SR-71. He spent time at Arnold Air Force Base in the late 60s as a co-op student from Auburn University and recently returned for a tour of the model shop and test facilities before sharing his story of his record-breaking flight.
My dream assignment was this SR-71, which I got to fly after the Phantom. So I got to fly the airplane for 6 years, and it just happened that when the airplane was retired in the early 1990s, all the museums wanted one for display, and the Smithsonian Institution said, we want a Blackbird for display, and they wrote a letter to the Secretary of the Air Force. When your pilot brings the airplane to the Smithsonian, please have him set an official coast-to-coast speed record, and that will call the public attention to what a great, great airplane it's been for our country for 25 years. So I was actually ordered to set a speed record. So that was an order I was happy to oblige.
He completed the majority of the flight at the SR-71's top speed of Mach 3.3 at 83,000 feet. After a quick refueling over the East Coast, he concluded his trip with a pair of low passes over a crowd of spectators at Dulles International Airport.
Flew my first pass at 800 feet and then circled around for my low pass at 200 feet for the crowd there. And I was directed just to make one low pass, so that was 200 feet. And then I lit the afterburner as we passed the crowd there, because I wanted them to see the beautiful sight of those orange plumes coming back behind that beautiful black airplane and feel the power of those 2 big J58 engines.
The flight was conducted on March 6, 1990. A couple years later, Lieutenant Colonel Ed Yielding would retire from active duty after 23 years of service. He now resides in his home state of Alabama.